Hey, and welcome to Game Talk. I'm your host, Ammon Mion. Today I'm joined by Connor.
Hey, guys.
And Mike.
Hello.
And today we are going to talk about video game music, which I'm very surprised that in our 110 plus episodes we have yet to talk about this, but...
How have I not, gone on a tirade about video game music at least once? There's no way.
I mean, we've definitely talked about the music of specific games and games we've been playing, a ton.
Right, yeah. But I don't know, video game music, that's something I'm pretty passionate about. There are tracks to games that I listen to, regularly.
I literally just listened to the entire soundtrack of Ace Combat 7 today.
I listen to Maple Story music while I work all the time.
Yeah, okay. That's funny. No, we were talking about Maple Story yesterday. The subject of the music did come up, and we made the bold claim that it is one of the best soundtracks in all of gaming.
I agree with that. I wouldn't say it's the best, but it's high. It's high marks for sure.
It's shockingly good. You wouldn't think an MMO would have music like that.
I disagree. I think it makes sense that an MMO would have it because you're spending so much time listening to it. It better be good.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
I do I'm sitting here, I'm thinking of the best game soundtracks in my opinion, and Maple Story's up there.
I mean,
Castlevania.
Obviously, this is all very subjective.
Extremely.
But,
mostly subjective. There are a few where I would argue that maybe the actual quality of the music is pretty subjective, but the music's ability to accomplish
evoke emotions and stuff
is pretty.
I come to bring a neutral point to this. Stardew Valley soundtrack is actually really good. Especially
Stardew Valley soundtrack,
it's
does slap. Also, notably reminds me of Maple Story music.
Notably about Stardew Valley is once I've learned that it was literally produced with stock sound effects.
Yeah,
that's.
I mean, Stardew Valley's it's just very relaxing, right? It feels like you're on a ranch or something.
So nice. There's not a bad track.
The early cave music in Stardew Valley reminds me a ton of Alinea in Maple Story that I was talking about the other day.
Yeah.
The vibe is very similar. I will say that I don't know a ton about music or music theory. I am definitely the least educated about of the three of us.
You can celebrate, you can deviate or divide. God, I can't think of the right word. You can divide gaming music into separate eras. Pre-orchestral, post-orchestral, when we started actually making music to fit a mood rather than just making it ambient background noise.
I mean, that's early, though.
Yeah. Some games didn't really pick that up. There was a loss in, game music being really good into the early 3D era. There's not a lot of songs from that era that I can
obviously,
think of.
Mario
Docs, though.
I was going to say Mario 64 has an iconic soundtrack, but if you're just running around the castle and you hear the do 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 do
yeah.
It's iconic, but does it really evoke anything other than maybe nostalgia?
Dire Docs does though.
It does.
Yeah. I mean, it's a very good Waterworld track.
Yeah, and it's used in every water level.
Right, yeah.
There is
I'd say Ocarina of Time was really good too.
Oh, Zelda in general. I mean, I would go to bat for Zelda as having out of all the gaming franchises, Zelda probably has my favorite music. I love Zelda.
I used
music.
to think that until I played the Ace Combat games, and I'm like, oh my god.
They're so good. What's funny about that, Mike? You kept singing its praises, so I decided to just install it on my PlayStation because I had it. Ace Combat 7 in particular. Yeah. And I don't know if you guys know this, but on PS5, if you hover over a game, the entire screen changes to be art from that game, and it optionally, if the developers include it, plays a track from that game. And as soon as I hovered over Ace Combat 7, I just got blasted with the most epic track I've ever heard. I was just holy crap, this is what Mike was talking about.
Yeah, it's such it evokes a mood, and there's not a bad song in that entire soundtrack. Same with Ocarina of Time.
It's funny, after I watched Top Gun, I was just I need more of this. So I installed Ace Combat 7.
There's a Top Gun DLC.
And then there was a lot of tutorials, and I got bored of the tutorials. But
yeah. So
maybe if I can get past
I think my favorite franchise music is probably between Zelda and Castlevania. And Castlevania really only has a handful of tracks
I think
that I could hum right now. But those handful are insane.
Most of those were from its 2D era, right? Or never really left the 2D era, but from
they were from the
SNES era.
Vampire Slayer, I think is what it's called.
The early chiptune era.
It's in every game.
Yeah.
So, and it's good every single time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know, man. Like, thinking about it more deeply, I feel like video game music has always been strong. There have been bangers in every era since gaming has been a thing.
Since NES, I would say.
Like,
there have been bangers.
Since there's been, like, sound chips, I guess.
I do feel recently...
well, early arcade games did not necessarily have great soundtracks.
Yeah, I think we've got to the point recently with video game music where they're bringing on, like, masterful composers to make their music because it's such an integral part of the game.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
Oh my god, Devil May Cry. Devil May Cry 5's soundtrack is nuts. It goes so hard.
Metal Gear Solid.
Oh, I imagine.
Metal Gear Rising's soundtrack is also really good.
I mean, Metal Gear in general also very... I love the music from those games. Especially, like, like Snake Eater. It's a very, like, Bond-esque, like a Bond intro kind of song.
Deus Ex also have really good music. The remakes as well. Or the sequel, prequel, trilogy, or duology now.
Yeah. Man, I'm just thinking, like, going back to Zelda, did either of you play the Link's Awakening remake on Switch?
I didn't play the remake. I played the original.
Yeah, I played the original.
Okay, it's the same songs, obviously, but they've been, like, orchestrated for this. And Tall Tall Heights, let me tell you, is like a S-tier, God-tier soundtrack.
Always, it was on the Game Boy.
Yeah. But you know what's really, really cool? In the remastered version, the orchestrated version, like, obviously it's all epic sounding. It has, like, orchestra performing the music. But then after it finishes, like, a verse, it switches back to the Game Boy track.
Yeah.
For, like, a verse. And it's so good. Oh, man. I'm just thinking of that track right now. It's one of my favorites.
Before we get too into it, I want to shout out YouTube channel Music Theory for Gamers. That was what I was when we were trying to think of a topic for this episode. I was looking at my YouTube feed, and he had come up, and I recently watched him analyze the Outer Wilds soundtrack, and he has never, for most of the game soundtracks he reviews, he has never actually played the game, and
that's pretty cool, actually.
It's extremely interesting because he tries to predict what
strictly
is
from
going
a music theory perspective.
Yeah, and he tries to tell you what the song is trying to convey, and he very often ends up spoiling the game because he
awesome.
Can read it so well. His Outer Wilds read was, like, fascinating to me. He actually, I mean, he's just interesting. He was able to, like, pick up a guitar and, like, strum out parts of the song after just hearing it once, which I thought was nuts. But I also want to shout out Outer Wilds because its soundtrack is really interesting to me. Because I love that game. It's my favorite game of all time. And, like, it makes me think of things that were, like, created for me specifically, almost, is what it feels like. Because the composer for Outer Wilds wanted to compose what a Midwest emo album would sound like if they were using all acoustic instruments, like harmonica and banjo and things like that. And I, like, am in love with both of those things.
Interesting.
And also, like, a lot of that soundtrack actually sounds pretty good if you listen to it as an album. There are a couple of tracks that feel extremely out of place, but I don't know. And I would also put it as a high contender for most evocative soundtrack I've ever heard, because and I don't think that this is the case if you're just listening to it, but if you have played Outer Wilds, there are very few people I know that have completed that game and will not, like, tear up when they hear the Traveler's theme. But
I mean, and that's the mark of a really good track, right? Like a really good game track, you should be able to hear maybe the first, like, measure of it, and then instantly be transported back to when you were playing it. Like,
yeah, it puts you in the exact state you were in when you heard it.
Yeah.
And
one soundtrack that I listen to often that does this is the Uncharted theme. I hear those notes go off and I'm instantly brought back. And it's just like it covers that sweeping sense of adventure so perfectly in that main theme. I love it. Oh, man. But I do think it's an interesting notion that we mentioned earlier of soundtracks that are evocative versus soundtracks that are just like
kind of noise.
Good for the sake of being good.
Like Terraria's soundtrack makes me feel nothing with that boop, beep, boop, boop, boop. When you're mining underground, like I just put that straight into my veins.
Ejected straight. I think the first time I really felt something on a video game soundtrack was Mass Effect 3's.
Oh no, Mass Effect 2 Suicide Mission. Come on,
2 did it too, but 3 was the first time it really like hit me because I was at the age where it like music started making sense to me, I guess.
Yeah,
because there's like an age that you hit where music starts making sense and stops becoming like noise. And I want to say for me, it was like 16, 17.
So is that like the evocative camp, or is that in the banger camp?
Like evocative. Like Leaving Earth, it was so good.
I know exactly the track you're talking about. But I just want to say for me, right? So I've been playing music since I was like 3 years old. So music has always been a pretty big part of my life. And you know, that being said, like I always pick up on music in games, even from a young age. Like if you tell me a game, I could probably pretty vividly remember the soundtrack to that game. That's like the component of a video game that sticks with me the longest is the soundtrack, for sure. That being said, for just going back to Mass Effect for a second, for me, Mass Effect 2, the Suicide Mission, I remember listening to that track just like by itself over and over, like throughout like high school, college, like that was like a mainstay track in my rotation.
You know, actually, I think I lied. I think the title screen of Mass Effect 1 also did it for me.
Yeah.
It was just so zen.
Oh yeah, that's a classic as well. Yeah.
The mainstay track for me all through my childhood was Sonic's theme song from Sonic Adventure 2.
I was going to say Sonic has
you can't talk about bangers without
iconic music. Yeah.
But like Sonic's theme song, It Doesn't Matter, which I don't even know if that plays in the main game. You have to go into the soundtrack to play it.
Sonic's an interesting one to me because like it has many faces, right? Because it has the rock kind of aesthetic for like for like the 3D games or whatever, and then it has the absolute like classic bangers like the 16-bit era,
and it's
or whatever.
all but confirmed that Michael Jackson worked on Sonic 3 and Knuckles now. I don't know if we ever talked about that on the show.
Yeah, that keeps going back and forth. I don't really know what to make of that, but
I mean the guy who produced the game like said that they had issues with the Jackson estate when Sonic Origins was coming out. Yeah,
Sonic's great.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's all bangers. Like even the worst Sonic game probably has a pretty good soundtrack.
I mean, okay, so let me mention one that will probably get all of us in the nostalgia. Pokemon.
Yeah.
Right, like Pokemon, right? I don't think it necessarily evokes an emotion, but I have strong nostalgia for, I don't know, just like the battle theme, you know, like
which gen do you think of when you think of like what's the first song you think of?
I think it's the Gen 1 battle theme.
Yeah.
Okay, because the one for me is Little Root Town in Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire.
Okay.
Like
I'm trying to remember how that one goes. Oh yeah, I know exactly what that is. Yep. Yeah. Oh yeah. Some composers are just like it blows my mind as someone who has been a musician for most of his life that like for music to just be good without evoking a particular emotion. Because like I think back to Uncharted and Zelda music, and that makes me feel a certain way. But like the Sonic, like the old Sonic music and the Pokemon music, they're just really good, catchy tracks, you know? Like, there's nothing else to say.
A good soundtrack can, like, really, really elevate a game, too. Like...
Oh, a good sound is, like, the most important element to me, I think. Like, more than visuals. But
it was, like... It makes people stay. Like, I feel like the game has to draw people in, but sound can definitely make people stay. Because that has been, in games that I've made... The most common thing that people talk about is soundtrack. I had a friend who was a music major make the soundtrack for like one of the first games I ever published, Hugs. And like people love that song. Like I swear there are people going to the page just to hear it. And every time somebody plays Perspectrum, I'm hearing how much they love the music that my brother did.
Yeah, I mean like just think to like even massive like Pokemon wouldn't be Pokemon without that music. Like it just wouldn't. Like, even if the gameplay is exactly the same, the visuals the same, without that music, it's not what it is today.
Yeah,
Zelda, I would also argue, like, Zelda is the music to me. Like, more than anything, Zelda is the music.
Which is why it's so wild that Breath of the Wild had so little music in it.
But even Breath of the Wild's music was so intelligently composed. Like,
an absolute banger.
Yeah, it was... Zelda, I cannot gush enough about Zelda. Zelda's music is just perfection to me. Gosh, like, Dragon Roast Island, like... Wind Waker's soundtrack...
That was the big reveal when I saw the Zelda Orchestra. It was the first time they'd ever played Dragon Roost Island, and that was like the song I wanted to hear.
It just melts me, man. Like I can't handle it. It's so good.
Yeah. Wind Waker's soundtrack is probably my favorite Zelda soundtrack, bar none.
I really think I agree. Yeah. They're all excellent. Dude. Yeah, they're all excellent.
Majora's Mask really brought that dread.
Spyro the Dragon soundtrack too. It was the drummer from The Police, I believe. What's his name? But Spyro had a famous musician, and the first 3 Spyro games, those soundtracks go so hard.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about 3D platformers in general. Like,
yeah, true.
They're just Copeland. So mad. Like, I mean, Grant Kirkhope, right? Banjo-Kazooie. I know you're not a big fan of Banjo-Kazooie music, but Banjo-Kazooie has some of the most iconic 3D platformer music in my mind. I love those tracks.
I could sit here and listen to Spyro music. I would rather never hear again than have to like go through a workday listening to Banjo-Kazooie music. Like, I think it fits the game really well. But it is also just kind of grating to me.
I guess I can kind of see it is grating, and I think I have that association because his music captures those levels so well.
I agree with that. I just like the idea of just listening to it doesn't sound fun to me at all.
I think I might agree with that. I don't think I've ever actually listened to Banjo-Kazooie in isolation, but when playing the game, I cannot think of a more perfect accompaniment to the gameplay.
I can't, yeah, when I'm playing the game, I can't imagine anything else. Definitely. Like, he nailed it, but...
So I guess we can go into some of our personal preferences. We've already sort of done that, but, like, I kind of want to highlight, right, like, a lot of my, like, favorite tracks, aside from Zelda, because obviously that's at the top. Like, I mentioned, like, those, like, cinematic first-party games that I'm super into, like Uncharted... Like, Shadow of the Colossus has, like, an all-time soundtrack. God of War, that soundtrack by Bear McCreary, I listen to all the time on Spotify. I love that soundtrack. Those, I don't know, like, the especially, like, the cinematic story-based games, they already are so, I guess, constructed to make you feel a certain way. So I guess it's sort of easier for the music to
the music
stick.
Cues are built into the game.
Yeah.
Like, seamlessly. Yeah. I really like when it's real performance as opposed to MIDI. Like, when I'm thinking of my favorites, I'm thinking of, like, when Undertale was MIDI through a lot of the game, but then you get to, very late in the game, and you hear an actual guitar strumming to play Home, I think, is the track. And that just, like, melted me. I loved it so much. And the same, Outer Wilds is all real performances, I'm pretty sure. Sonic Adventure 2, like, that's all, it's a band performing, you know. I actually like lyrics in game music. I love that in Sonic. I love it in Persona 5. I love it in...
JRPGs have bangers, usually.
Devil May Cry 5, yeah. Yeah, oh my god, the soundtrack.
Anytime a soundtrack changes through the course of the game is really good.
The soundtrack in Dragon Quest XI, like, goes hard. It's, like, so jolly. Like, it feels Dragon Ball-y, but, like, a lot of Dragon Quest feels like Dragon Ball.
Yeah.
It's very intentional, but it works. Final Fantasy, oh my god, Final Fantasy 15. The soundtrack in that game goes so hard.
Well, yeah, I mean, Final Fantasy, I think 7 has one of the most iconic soundtracks of all time, but none of us have played it, so...
Dude, I think just by consequence of the collaboration, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate may be the greatest collection of music
just pulls in
history.
It pulls in, like, every game's soundtrack.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nintendo, like, I don't know, I kind of want to spotlight Nintendo for a sec. They just...
It's pretty constant bangers.
Yeah, they just really get it when it comes to supplying the appropriate music for their game.
Disagree though. Like they get there eventually, but like Miyamoto specifically was super against the orchestral soundtrack in Mario Galaxy. And can you even imagine that game without it?
No, I can't.
Yeah.
It's unimaginable.
Like, they got there, but, you know.
I mean, from our perspective, they were there, though, right? Like, it's like...
Yeah, but they might have got there sooner. Like,
I guess, yeah. But I can't, like... Any first-party Nintendo game I've played, like, I feel like the majority of them have pretty
they
iconic
have good sounding soundtracks. But I don't know if they really have evocative ones. Like, before Galaxy. Galaxy's soundtrack is pretty evocative for me. Like the...
Yeah, if we're talking Mario in particular, right? Like, obviously 64 has some nostalgic tracks, but, like, Galaxy and, like, Odyssey are on a whole other plane of existence when it comes to soundtracks, in my opinion, at least.
I can't think of a single track from Super Mario Odyssey other than Jump Up Superstar.
Yeah, and that alone makes it, like, one of the best.
Oh, yeah, the rush at the end of the game was good, too. I think Galaxy, though, Galaxy has the story room theme. Like, I can't hum it, but you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
When Rosalina reads to you.
Right.
That goes hard. But other than that, I can't think of any Nintendo games that really have, like, super evocative music. It's just nonstop bangers.
Yeah.
Yeah, Metroid Dread, like, that soundtrack was... I think it did the job.
Yeah, it did the job. I didn't think it was, like...
It wasn't iconic, I wouldn't say.
There are no... I couldn't name a single, like, area song from that game. It just did the job. Like, it was creepy. Like, the sounds of, like, the Emmys and stuff.
Yeah.
It got the job done. But it wasn't like Super Metroid where you run in, you know, run in the overworld and it's that, like, banger triumphant sound.
Right, yeah. I want to shout out as well, continuing on my Sony first-party praise, I guess. The soundtrack to The Last of Us is really special, I think. And it's all basically... The majority of it is all just guitar work by one man. Gustavo Santaolalla, I think?
Is this the first one or the second one?
Both of them.
I don't remember the soundtrack super well, but I haven't played that game since, like, 2014. So. Yeah,
the soundtrack is just... Oh, gosh. It makes me sad. But, yeah. You know, that's what that game's supposed to do. But yeah, shout out to that guy. It's just him and his guitar, and they just basically recorded that and slapped that into the game, and it works.
It does sound really good, yeah. I would love to write music for my games, but I find that process very difficult.
I think it's really...
You did that, right?
I did that for Sweet and Spooky.
I think you did it for Hank Heads Home as well.
I did, yeah. I'm not as proud of that soundtrack as I was for Sweet and Spooky's. I really enjoyed Sweet and Spooky soundtrack.
Hank Heads Home just did not come out great for anybody, I don't think.
Yeah, it could have been better, but at least we got there at the end of the day. But yeah, I don't know, like, with Sweet and Spooky, for those who don't know, it was like so these are all Game Jam games, and Sweet and Spooky was like a Halloween-themed kind of roguelike game, which,
it was.
It's kind of hilarious to say out loud. But, so yeah, so the music that I wrote for it, like, sort of incorporated that fast pace you're trying to survive with, like, the Halloween undertones, and I thought it came out pretty well.
I think my favorite soundtrack I did for one of those Game Jam games was probably, like, the generative algorithmic soundtrack that I did for Darklight.
Yeah, that was a very atmospheric soundtrack.
Like, it wasn't a soundtrack.
It was genuinely creepy.
A bunch of noise that just randomly played.
Like, I could see that soundtrack for that game being in, like, a legit, like, high production horror game. Like those sound effects and stuff.
Yeah, just algorithmic noise.
Yeah, good stuff.
I think did I do a song for Microwave?
You did a song for a prototype that I did.
Yeah, that was a while ago.
That song slapped.
Yeah, and I think I like struggled with it for a little bit, and then went into my backlog of projects I never finished. Like, oh, this sounds great.
I can still, like, hear the opening hum of that song in my head. I'm actually... I can't share it. You know, we can't share it, because that game crashed and burned for many reasons.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to give you the praise because I still like listen to that sometimes.
Yeah, so I want to give an underrated shout out here, I think, to Civilization, especially like Civilization 5 and 6, because like as you play that game, depending on which civilization you are and which civilizations are like in proximity to you, the soundtrack is shaped by like the music of those cultures, and I find that very, very interesting. So say if you're like playing as India or whatever, you're gonna hear Indian music, and then like maybe you encounter Japan or something, then maybe like it's a blend of Indian and Japanese music or something like that.
I mean, Civ 4 won a Grammy.
Did it really?
Yeah, the title theme, cool. Baba Yetu won.
Oh, right. Yeah, Civ games, like, they really have amazing tracks for their main menus for whatever reason, right?
Literally, the first video game song to win a Grammy was for a Civilization game.
Really?
Yep.
That's fascinating.
They have great music for their menus, which is like, why don't you stick that in the actual game? But
yeah, the actual game that people spend, 7 hours,
hundreds, thousands of hours. Oh man, I feel like I could just go on and on. Like Hades has an insane soundtrack.
Oh yeah, Hades goes very hard.
Ace Combat 7 soundtrack's insane, and I've said that so many times. But
yeah, I mean, I said it earlier in the episode. It
evolves over the course of the game too. Like some mission, if you're in a mission, notably the DLC missions where you're just fighting actual fighter pilots instead of drones, it's just guitar. There's actually it's all acoustic instruments instead of the digital synthy sound the rest of the game has.
I love an adaptive soundtrack. I gotta shout out Devil May Cry 5 again, because Devil May Cry 5's soundtrack goes harder the more style points you have.
That's so fun.
That's just, it's so good.
See,
like
Ace Combat,
like when you hit Triple S, the vocals come in, and like, oof.
Ace Combat 7's soundtrack will change if you go into the clouds, because it'll get kind of muted and filtered out.
Oh yeah, Mario Kart also.
Yeah. I really enjoy games that like slightly change the presentation of the music based off of like the environmental factors at play. Like if you're underwater or something, that's such a nice touch.
I just love it. Subnautica, I'll give a shout out to Subnautica for having like a pretty perfect soundtrack for what it was going out to do, even though I have like a lot of beef with that game.
I also want to give a shout out to games that withhold their soundtrack and then blast you with it to make it more impactful. And I can't think of games that do that better than the Souls games, right? The Souls games are largely quiet throughout, but when you come into a boss fight, you just get blasted with like the most epic orchestral music, and it gets your blood pumping, right? And there's like hardly music at all aside from those boss fights in those games.
God, I have like an embarrassing thing. I feel like a lot of people probably went through this phase, but I absolutely used to be one of those people that like immediately mutes the music in the game and plays my own.
No, I never did that ever.
I for sure. I had probably a 4-year phase like through high school where I did that all the time, and I'm like ashamed of it because I did that in Mobinogi, and that the music from that game like puts tears in my eyes now, although part of that is just the memories of the game.
It depends on like some games. If I'm playing like a game I've played 1,000 times,
I mean like some like
play my own.
Yeah, no, I do.
Yeah,
like,
there's a place for that
too.
Right,
I'm gonna play like a lot of that game, and it has like a fairly muted soundtrack anyway. That it almost feels like I was supposed to turn it off and play my own music.
Yeah, and if you're playing like a grindy game or whatever, like I totally get it, right?
Yeah.
But if you're like first experience with a video game and you just slap on your own music, shame on you.
The one I remember doing it in is Borderlands 2, and I'll be honest, I don't really regret that in retrospect, but it's still, I didn't even give it a chance.
Yeah. I want to give a shout out as well to Death Stranding. Death Stranding has excellent music, and it was largely all pulled from like this indie Icelandic rock group called Low Roar, I believe. So Kojima has like very particular tastes, right? And he basically fell in love with this little band, this Icelandic band, and like they supplied a lot of music in Death Stranding, and it just fits so well. Very melancholic, especially like as you're like trekking across the waste, just with nothing to do but look at the scenery and hear that music. It's really good.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I do want to shout out one more time, even though we already said it. Persona, like,
Persona.
It's just unbelievably good. Like both 5 and 4. Like
the rainy like cafe song from Persona 5. Like, if I need to like just chill out, like calm down, nothing really hits like that song does.
It's yeah. I don't know. There's just something particular about like JRPG music where they just nail it to the point where like it doesn't even make sense. Like how did you nail it this hard?
Yeah.
Like it's very good.
It's always wild when you're just playing a JRPG that's like, this is just of Brina. You're just like a bunch of dudes walking around, and then all of a sudden the Latin chanting kicks in and you're facing God knows what.
Yeah, Omori, it plays like a JRPG, and it like hits it out of the park on, I don't want to say soundtrack because it's more of a soundscape type thing when it's at its best. But it's extremely good.
Like, Final Fantasy 15 did a really good job of just being like, oh, the music's just kind of there. And then all of a sudden you're fighting God. It's just like, your eardrums are being blasted.
The music they've added to Minecraft recently. Minecraft, like, has always had banger music, but it never used to play for some reason. Like, I remember when I was a kid, I would have
I've always loved the music in Minecraft.
I think they got the composer of Celeste to do some music for Minecraft recently.
Did Maddie Thorsten not do the music for Celeste?
Who was it? It was
I thought Celeste was largely just all by Maddie Thorsten.
No, the composer was Lena Raine?
Oh, okay, yeah. Lena Raine. Yeah. Lena Raine. But I used to play Minecraft all the time, and I would have my own music playing, but I would immediately pause my music if I heard one of the Minecraft tracks start. It's just like there was so little music in the game, and it played so rarely that you kind of had to supplement it.
Yeah.
But now it plays all the time, and all the new music is, like, incredible. It's really good.
Yeah.
I don't know. I do want to say, I'm not trying to, like, start a competition here, but on average, video game music is way better than movie music.
I honestly kind of agree.
Like,
it's definitely going to make some people mad.
The exception I can think of is, like, maybe, like, Hans Zimmer.
Like okay. There are obviously, like, all-time classic film soundtracks. Like, I don't know, Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, whatever, right? Like, those are
neither
obviously...
of those hold up to, like, Zelda to me, though. Like...
I don't know. I think if you did a poll, I think Star Wars would smash Zelda. But, like, I honestly kind of agree with you. Zelda is, like, top tier to me.
So yeah,
but I don't know if that's a common opinion.
Music in the Nether update.
Like, I feel like I feel like all video game music goes hard, whereas like a lot of movie music kind of phones it in. Like, it's just
I don't know, like
setting the tone for a scene.
I feel like another thing is that video game music sticks with you that much harder just by nature of video games being that much more immersive. So like you form like a more of a connection with that music. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, and they're longer. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
It doesn't change the truth that video game music goes hard, though.
Yeah. It does. It goes shockingly hard at times. Another one I want to shout out. I know, like, I'm the guy who's always like talking about AAA games, so sue me. But Red Dead Redemption 2 has an all-time soundtrack. Absolutely incredible.
I'll play that game someday.
Yeah, so good.
Maybe. I do like cowboys.
That's the thing to me, like, this is a massive tangent, but, like, I never got GTA. GTA always bores me to tears every time I try it, but I love Red Dead, yes.
I enjoyed the story of GTA 5.
Like, I've tried to play it, like, 10 times, and I cannot. I just
Really?
can't. Yeah, I can't.
That's interesting to me.
Yeah. Red Dead, though. Love that. Oh, I have to give a shout out to Journey. I've mentioned Journey on this podcast so many times. That's probably one of my all-time greats as well. Like, the final track, as you're flying up to the mountain. One of the most beautiful pieces of music I've ever heard.
I was just looking at my games to, like, think of something else to see if I was missing anything. And I just wanted to shout out, Monster Hunter has this recurring bit that the music doesn't start until the monster sees you, and then the combat music starts. And there is a blind monster that you hunt, and the music never starts.
Oh, wow. That's a fun touch.
Yeah, it's just silly because like the monster's behavior is exactly like if it could see you, but it's canonically blind, so the music never starts.
So I've heard that this soundtrack is a great, like a GOAT soundtrack, but I personally haven't played this game yet, but maybe you can talk to it, Connor. Nier Automata.
Oh my god, yeah, Nier Automata. It's like, think of the best anime soundtrack you've ever heard, and like, it's on par with it. Yeah. Nier Automata it's like I think the way some people feel about the Kingdom Hearts soundtracks, I feel about the Nier Automata soundtrack. And I will say, like, I'm not, like, the biggest proponent of Kingdom Hearts. Kingdom Hearts music does slap, though.
It does.
It's really good. It goes hard. But yeah, Nier Automata, I'll never forget, like, there's an amusement park in Nier Automata that you go through. And it's, like, even I don't know, I can't help but wonder if they made changes to the game based on how good the music came out, because the boss of that area is music themed. And like the area is not music themed, it's an amusement park. But the boss is a singer.
Oh my gosh, that kind of jogged a memory. Shout out to Returnal as well. In terms of like music being integrated with the boss fights,
really,
one of the best examples I've seen in any video game of that happens in Returnal.
See, I play a lot of roguelikes, and I feel like a lot of them, like, other than Hades, the music is kind of, like, I usually end up turning it off and playing my own in most roguelikes that I play.
Yeah, specifically, okay, so I know you'll play Returnal one day, Connor, because I know you.
Yeah.
Specifically in level 4, the boss fight to that game, and the lead up to that, one of the best usages of music in a video game I've ever seen. Incredible stuff.
I need Returnal to come to PC so bad.
It is. I think it's already kind of been leaked that it's coming to PC.
Sweet.
So
yeah, that'll be
happening.
Day one purchase for me for sure.
I remember when I was younger, and not so much anymore, even though the music's pretty good. It's not like blowing me away like the others, but I used to really enjoy the Assassin's Creed music. Like the AC2 music and like the Black Flag music and stuff like that.
Sure. The Black Flag shanties I had fun with. I really liked, this is actually like, Final Fantasy 15 has me think of this too. I really like when, and this is kind of like becoming more popular now, but when games use a song that's not from a video game, like Final Fantasy 15 had Stand By Me, I think.
Did it really?
Yeah. And like, that song is forever the Final Fantasy 15 song now for me. Like, it was just integrated so well. But there's a famous Little Big Planet trailer that plays a song called Sleepyhead. And I just, like, am immediately, like, back at my dad's house playing Little Big Planet 1 anytime I hear that song. It's, like, permanently
That's awesome.
Etched into my brain. And it's a banger, too, Sleepyhead. I forget who it's by, though. Because it was always just the Little Big Planet trailer song to me. Man. Oh my god, and the video game trailers go hard too. They do. The Dark Souls 1 trailer, it plays a song called Bartholomew, I think.
It's crazy that you remember the name of the song.
Yeah, I highly recommend anybody look up Dark Souls Bartholomew trailer, because it is the hardest trailer I've ever seen. It is so good. It sold me on Dark Souls at a time when I was like not at all interested in RPGs or anything.
And then you play Dark Souls and there's like no music for like 90%
Yeah, I was
of the
actually
game.
pretty mad. Yeah. but the trailer is amazing. The trailer is like tonally not Dark Souls at all. It was like much like,
I mean, they had to figure out a way to sell it though. Like,
yeah, it was,
you know, like
the
at the time at least
into like the like live, die, repeat.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah.
The biggest challenge for Dark Souls was figuring out how to convince people to play it.
Yeah.
Once people played it, they were in.
The Bartholomew trailer is a masterpiece of marketing. I can't think of a single trailer that is as good as it.
I'm intrigued. I gotta check it out. Speaking of trailers, the trailer for Dragon Age 2, when I was younger, that was the most hype thing I've ever seen. Like, music included, and then the game ended up being like total trash. Never been more disappointed in a video game release than I was for Dragon Age 2. I was so hyped for that, and it was just like totally let me down.
It's just because you weren't there for Spore.
Yeah. apparently.
Yeah, Spore was
the iconic disappointing game.
Yeah. I've never been disappointed ever since I played Spore. Like, honestly.
Yeah, no, I genuinely, it molded me into someone who will never get my hopes up for anything ever again.
That's probably a good thing.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are, don't lie.
Sonic, I mean, it's a Bethesda game, so I'm going to buy it because Todd Howard has me by the balls.
Dude.
But
we haven't given... Okay, so we've given Sony and Nintendo some love.
We haven't talked about Bethesda.
Halo. Come on, man. Halo really? Halo hits hard.
Halo's good. Skyrim and like Oblivion, the opening scene of Oblivion is where I thought you were going.
So many
I mean, like Skyrim and Oblivion both. Yeah.
Skyrim.
I thought that like didn't Oblivion come out a little before the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie?
I believe so.
Because I remember like the first time I played Oblivion, I was like, oh, they're just ripping off Pirates of the Caribbean with this song. Because it is very similar. But I'm pretty sure Oblivion came first.
I would have to fact check that. But regardless, excellent music. Like, some of the best ambient music, I think, in any game. When you're just, like, hanging out, wandering around. Like,
yeah, for sure. I mean,
so
there's
a
reason, like, it's so iconic that, like, people can do those TikToks where they're being Oblivion NPCs or whatever, and you immediately know what they're doing because they play that track.
No, Pirates of the Caribbean was 3 years before Oblivion.
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah. But Morrowind had the same title theme and came out before.
Okay, that's what I was thinking of. Yeah.
No, yeah. Elder Scrolls games always have.
Yeah, so Morrowind did it
superb music.
Yeah, like Oblivion's themes were so.
Honestly, like it's kind of a little frustrating to me because like the music that people associate with Elder Scrolls the most now is like the Skyrim Dragonborn theme, and that's not what Elder Scrolls music is to me at all.
No, me neither.
Like Oblivion's was so subdued except for the combat music, but even then.
Yeah, like the subdued, like the exploratory, just ambient music to me is just so good. It's like that is what those games are to me, at least music wise.
Definitely evoked like you're in a medieval society and you're just adventuring, and then a wolf would hop out and you'd hear like the violins pick up or something.
True.
Like I feel like Skyrim kind of did the idea of the ambient dirty.
Well, Skyrim was like, I don't know. I think it concerned itself with being mainstream and stuff.
Yeah, that's
because like Skyrim, you just hear the Dragonborn music blasting. Don't get me wrong, it's a good track, but like
banger. But it's
there's
not,
much
like,
better tracks in that game.
Yeah, especially some of the cave sounds. Whew. Like, I could do a whole podcast on how Skyrim kind of made the Elder Scrolls series kind of worse.
Yeah,
but I'm not going to. Well, that's next episode. We'll talk about Skyrim for an hour and a half.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I think it was a trade-off. Like they that's kind of that's where I was going with that.
And I don't. Yeah, I agree. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but it definitely like.
I mean, as a result of what Skyrim did, right? Elder Scrolls 6 is probably going to be one of the best-selling games of all time.
Speaking of that, Fallout soundtracks are also really good.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, I don't really remember Fallout
real music, but also there is ambient tracks that play if you're not listening to music.
Real music, quote unquote. You got, the listeners at home know.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, like actual radio music. But if you're not playing the radios, like New Vegas has these very ambient, evocative tracks. Like there's one where it's just like ambient droning, and then suddenly like a Western guitar kicks in. And it hits. Hold on, let me find the track.
Dude, now I'm thinking about the Hitman 3 or the Hitman trilogy soundtrack, like the newer Hitman, because it had some like killer Spanish guitar in a couple of those levels.
Speaking of Spanish guitar,
the Hitman music is really good. I wouldn't call it
it just makes me feel like I'm in that place again. It really sells the locations because it uses music globally, like.
Yeah, that's true. Because Hitman is very much like a globe trotting sort of game, right? And it does a good job of incorporating music from everywhere in the world.
Yeah.
Gosh, I love video game music so much.
Yeah, me too. We really just kind of gushed
just
about
so
our
much
game soundtracks this whole episode.
Yeah, Ace Combat Zero had some really good Spanish guitar too.
Did it?
Oh yeah.
Why? Were you fighting Spanish people?
No, that was just the thematic. They went with flamenco guitar, and it fit really well with like kind of the Arthurian legend that you were going through.
I cannot believe I hadn't remembered this before now. Have you guys ever played Rayman Legends?
No.
Oh, it's an iconic platformer you guys should definitely play, but at the end of every world, like after the boss, your reward is that you get a level where they like do a weird cover of a famous song. And the best one is from I think the world is called Fiesta de los Muertos, and it's a Day of the Dead party, like, you know, a lot of Mexican culture and stuff in there. And it's like a mariachi cover of Eye of the Tiger.
What?
And it's so like, yeah, even if you don't play the game, you should look up that level and hear the song. It's actually kind of painful how short the level is because it doesn't really do the whole song. But the levels are so like fast paced and everything, and like your movements in the level, like where it's a really tight platformer, it kind of forces you to like be very much in rhythm with the song, and it feels so good to play. There's like 7 levels like that in Rayman Legends, and they're all incredible.
Yeah, I've always heard incredible things about Rayman Legends.
Yeah, it makes me really sad that Origin and Legends were like the only two. Like they made the UbiArt engine for those games, and then they just kind of didn't make any more of those games, and now Rayman is just a Rabbids thing, and that makes me so sad because Rayman Legends is genuinely like probably top 10 2D platformers for me. It beats some Mario games, probably.
Yeah, that doesn't really surprise me. It probably beats
all the new Super Mario Bros. Games for me, actually. Easily.
I'm just trying to like, I know as soon as we end this talk, I'm just going to think of like 30 more soundtracks that I'm going to kill myself for not mentioning.
All so good.
Yeah.
I'm like looking at all my games right now.
I do want to give a shout out to Disco Elysium. Disco Elysium also has like a very, I guess, haunting is the right word. Like that soundtrack, you're not going to forget the music from that game after you finish it. Just like the ambient music of the city of Revachol, and like how like, I guess, subdued and downtrodden it makes you feel. It's very good. Disco Elysium is a masterpiece, by the way.
Everyone needs to play it. I have it installed. I just need to play it.
I need to buy it.
Gosh, I don't know. I can't think of anything else right now, but I feel like I've mentioned most of what tickles my fancy.
Yeah, I think I'm also.
Yeah, I'm all soundtracked out.
And I don't have a game I've been playing because
so
like 2 days ago.
Yeah, interesting tidbit for the listener. We recorded the previous episode 2 days ago, so
I haven't had a lot of time to...
not a lot has happened since last time.
It's not been an exciting 2 days because we've all just been.
So I guess I have one. If no one has anything, so I did check out the new Fall Guys.
Yeah.
So Fall Guys has released as a free to play game. It is on every platform, and there's cross play between all platforms now. So
it's not like new, right? Like it's the same one that I've been playing the past couple weeks.
Yeah, yeah. The past couple weeks, yeah. But it's like fun. They released like a new client and so you had to like re-download it. Like it was a whole thing. But yeah, it's great. I mean, like we've talked about Fall Guys a lot in the past. I think we had 3 straight episodes on Fall Guys actually.
It was
and
big
like one of our main.
It's big again now.
It's big again. It's never been bigger, I think, actually. And one of our big complaints when the game first came out was that this is really fun, but like there's such a limited selection of maps that like each like sort of go around for like each sort of match feels kind of similar. That problem no longer exists. There are so many different kinds of maps and games now that like each time you play around, it's like totally different, right? So like things keep staying fresh, and that I think was the one big weakness of that game, and now it's gone, and now it's just like a powerhouse battle royale. I think like it's super fun.
Like the transition to free to play introduced another weakness, which is that like crowns used to be like valuable. Like I wanted to get wins and stuff because my crowns could be used to buy costumes and stuff, and I thought that was so cool.
Yeah, crowns? I guess okay. From my perspective, I never mess with like cosmetics, so I don't really care about that. So
I did. Well, that's like the only game I ever did because I didn't have to pay for them. Like my being good at the game got me cosmetics, and I thought that was really cool. And now the only thing you get for crowns is like there's like a crown type season pass thing. And I got it for free because I'd already bought the game. But I still, like, I'm not choosing my rewards. I'm getting the same rewards as everybody else for my crowns, so I don't feel unique using those or anything. And I feel like that's something lost. But
one thing I'm not clear on, and I haven't really paid too much attention, so it might be obvious, but there are, like, a lot of different currency types in the game now that I don't fully understand.
Sort of. There's two currencies and one EXP, basically.
Okay, because I remember, like, after playing, after finishing around, like, 4 different things would pop up, and I'd be like, you got this many of these and this many of these. I was just like, what is all of this?
You get crown shards, which turn into crowns, and crowns increase your rank in the crown season pass thing. And then you get kudos, which increases your rank in the season pass. And then there's show points, I think, or something, and that's what you use to buy like the lowest
crowns and kudos do the same thing?
No, that's 2 separate season passes.
There's 2 season passes?
There's 2
per season?
I think you buy once and you get both, but there's 2 charts. So kudos you can get without winning, and that's one like group of cosmetics and stuff. But to get crowns, you actually have to win, and those cosmetics are typically way cooler.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Because you have to get a ton of wins to get them, yeah. But kudos you get by like doing like Fortnite-esque like challenges and stuff. And I think Fall Guys is actually a really bad game to have those challenges in because they're genuinely uninteresting. It's stuff like play 5 squad shows, and I'm like, man, I'm playing by myself. I don't want to do a squad show. That's just like dead weight for me because I'm pretty good at the game, and I've just got these other people that are making it harder for me to qualify. And it's like, and then it'll be like, one of the challenges is like, get first place in this many like shows or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, like I wasn't already trying to do that. Like, so you haven't given me an interesting objective. You're just telling me to do what I was already doing. And that annoys me. That's not fun.
Wait, they somehow made it where it made like Fall Guys' progression system worse?
Yeah, they made it grindy. And I don't love that. But if you're just sitting down and you want to play a couple rounds of Fall Guys, it's literally never been better. It's
yeah, and that's where I'm coming from. And granted, I guess I am a bit of a boomer when it comes to this, but like I don't really have any interest in the progression systems or the cosmetics or anything. I just kind of want to play the game.
The casual Fall Guys experience is nuts. And that's a weird thing for me to say because I do remember you were by far the sweatiest Fall Guys player.
Oh, I was, yes. Actually, that's the reason like I haven't played it in like 1 to 2 years now. Like, because I remember trying to, because I got every trophy in that game except for win 5 games in a row.
You never got the win 5 games in a row?
No, and I got to 3 wins once, and then I had died after that, and then I just like uninstalled it and I never played the game again. Because with each successive win, I would get so much more stressed out. Like it was still not. Yeah, that's still a thing. But apparently, it's way easier to get now because like you can like do custom games and stuff. So
better than that. There's like a custom game mode every day that gets added into the rotation, and there was one the other day where it was just Lily Leapers, which is like, I don't know. A lot of people seem to struggle with it. I find it incredibly easy, and it was just a free crown printer for me. I won every single time I played it. It was so easy.
But yeah,
I didn't get that achievement because I won 2 or 3 times, and I was like, this is boring. I'm not even having a good time anymore.
I am glad that I let go my pursuit for that because it was definitely causing me undue stress.
Yeah, you were tense.
Yeah, so I just play the game for fun, and it's very fun.
No, it's got crossplay now. Crossplay parties.
It's got the crossplay, and like I love the huge variety of games, man. Like there's no like you can go through like 2 or 3 entire sessions and not see the same game once.
They do definitely. At least last week, they were playing the newest games way more frequently than the older ones.
And I mean, like that's the other thing too. Like there's so many games now. Like there's different kind of like, I guess, flavors of like tracks you can pick. Like you want. For like solos or duos or like squads, there are like certain maps that are weighted more, I believe. So
yeah, I know.
It's pretty cool.
It was like running into an old friend when I finally got to play Fall Ball again.
I still haven't played Fall Ball again.
I love Fall Ball. Yeah, they've also added a ton of RNG that wasn't in the game when it first came out.
Yeah, the old maps have been updated with new kind of traps and stuff, and that's kind of cool.
And they're different every time. The maps aren't static anymore.
It really is. You just got to be. good now.
Yeah,
I guess.
So much fun. Yeah, you can't like just have muscle memory for the course. Well, that's not really true. Especially the new courses. There is one of the courses where if I spawn in the front row, it's a guaranteed first place for me every single time because my muscle memory is just flawless for it.
And like even the finales, which like before there were only like 2 or 3 finales.
The finales.
There's so many.
There aren't as many races now, and the non-race finales feel way more like possible. There's one I hate though, Hexa Ring. I think it's called.
Hexa Ring. Yeah,
I hate Hexa Ring. I think I've won it one time. It's so hard.
Yeah, and I don't know, man. Like just the overall vibe of the game is just so funny. Like it kind of reminds me of Super Auto Pets in a way that is just like the very presentation of the game is so comedic. It just like makes me laugh.
The soundtrack
These stupid little
incredible
beans running around grabbing each other for no reason.
That
like people, I have noticed like people are like way more malicious now. At least in my experience, people will grab you and shove you and just like
sweaty.
Cause chaos. Yeah,
people really want to win. There's also a lot more people that are really bad at it now than there used to be, though, where it's free to play.
For sure.
Like, that's another reason I like playing solos more a lot of the time, is because if you don't play solos, the rounds go on a lot longer. And you can get stuck watching some child that just cannot figure out how to get past an obstacle.
Right, yeah.
It takes forever.
It is kind of funny, you know.
It is funny, yeah.
It is kind of easy to tell when you're like watching a child or something because they just
do the same thing over and over and it doesn't work. And you can tell they're probably having the time of their lives.
Yeah. And plus you're having the time of your life because you get to crush like an easy target. So
yeah, true.
What a game.
This is good.
It's very funny. Very humorous.
But I will point out, my guy never falls.
Mm.
He's always at the front of the pack. He never falls until I get my crown, and then he falls because I only have the one animation for victory.
Gosh, I don't even remember. I think I changed the default animation, but yeah, I think so. Like I think the first like big cosmetic I got in that game was the chicken costume, and I just put that on and I never took it off.
Yeah, I got the Submariner costume that I really liked because it had a transparent belly.
Yeah. I remember that one.
Yeah, I wore it for
I don't know, like, if those costumes, since they were part of the, like, original Fall Guys, if they're even obtainable anymore, or, like, if they're
and that's what I like.
Or conversely, maybe they're, like, super common now, I don't know, but...
I liked the submarine one because you had to, like... It was, like, the first or second day the game was out, you had to get, like, 8 wins or something to get it. And so, like, not very many people ever got the opportunity to get it, so it was, like, super rare. I never saw anybody else wearing it, and that made me feel really cool.
Yeah, I remember being proud of my chicken costume. But, yeah, I don't really care about the cosmetics anymore. They just kind of made it look like a pain to keep track of all that, so...
I don't know. I play for the kudos, because you get a Mechagodzilla skin if you finish the season pass, and I want that pretty bad.
That's pretty cool.
It looks really good. There's also there's one for sale right now that's King Ghidorah, and the arms are his heads, and it's really good.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm definitely in the minority here. People that obviously care about cosmetics. Yeah. So what's like there are microtransactions still, right? Like, you can buy a certain...
Just buy costumes, yeah, that aren't...
Oh, you can just buy the costumes? Okay.
You can also buy ranks in the season pass. I don't think you can buy crowns, though. I think those have to be won, which I respect their, like... I respect that, because that's cool.
That would... I don't know. Crowns are pretty prestigious, I guess. Like, you actually have to succeed to get those.
But you have to get a ton of crowns. I forget. It was, like, over 1,000 crowns or something, I think, to get the highest... rank in the battle pass, or the battle pass. I keep saying that because I was playing a lot of Halo, the season pass.
I mean, that's what it is, basically.
Yeah.
I would call what happens in Fall Guys a battle. Like, pushing someone off like a ledge is the most savage thing you could possibly do in the video game.
The new Dodgeball final game. Have you played that?
It's not a final, is it?
It is. Or it can be.
I haven't played it as a final.
Oh, I love it.
It's good. Yeah. All right, that's all I got. I played a little Fall Guys. Have you guys done anything the past couple days?
Just Fall Guys.
Fall Guys. Mike?
I haven't played anything, really. Nothing worked.
Well, there you have it. I'm sure we'll have more games next week because it'll actually be a week between episodes. But for now, thank you all for listening. You can follow us at Podcast Game Talk on Twitter. Please like, rate, and review us on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Spotify, and any other podcast services you use. Click the link in the description of the podcast to join our Discord and talk to us there. Thank you, Connor and Mike.
Yeah, see you guys next time.
See you next time. Bye.